Let's just call it like it is. Words are hard, y'all. However, they are the foundation and the fundamental principle in which storytelling exists. They move emotions, actions, and create conflict and resolve conflict. The dialogue we have amongst each other and the observations we make are expressed with words. But with power comes great responsibility. They also are the foundation of our 10 questions that I will ask our panel today. So, let's grab a cup of coffee or tea and think of the words you want to use in the live chat and in the comments as we explore the use of words with This Week in Indies and your host, Joe Compton. All right, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are, however you are. It's great to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us. It is This Week in Indies, and I am your host, Joe Compton, and I'm really excited to have the great esteemed panel that I have this week. I want to mention right off the top, though, however, they're going to be talking a lot longer than they normally would be. We do not have it this weekend, or we do not have an indie connection this week. I knew I was going to screw that. See, words are already escaping me. But we do not have an indie connection this week. Courtney hopefully will be back next week. But that being said, that's okay. We'll fill the 5 minutes that she usually allots us to take a break with the lovely people I have here down below. So hello, everybody, and welcome. Let's go around the room. Because we got a couple of newcomers, I'm going to start with... see, words are already failing me.
Wow, Joe.
I know, it's like, what, 3 minutes into the show? All right, not even. I haven't even made the 3-minute mark. All right, so Vanessa, why don't you start us off, and then I'll go to Anita, and then Kim and Randy. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
So my name is Vanessa Junta. I am the author of the Urban Fantasy Soul Cavern series. I am also a professional editor and have been in the business since 2008.
Awesome. Anita?
Okay, I am Anita Stewart. I write under AF Stewart, horror, fantasy, steampunk, soon to be paranormal, cozy mystery, and probably more that I've forgotten. And I also do hosting for Go Indie Now with Words That Kill and a mysterious upcoming show that I'm not going to be able to talk about yet. And
Ooh.
I also do interviews for Crystal Lake Entertainment, where I'm the media manager, and I host the Shadows and Ink podcast for Crystal Lake Entertainment.
Whew.
Yeah.
Girl, I'm tired just thinking about it.
You're done. Not done.
Plus, I do a lot of design stuff for my stores on Zazzle. So
awesome. Vanessa, do you want to mention what you do at the Go Indie?
Oh, yeah. I forgot, didn't I? I host a show called A Conversation and a Cocktail, where I sit down with indie creators, usually authors, and we basically drink and shoot the shit. That's really what we do.
Yeah. Although we will not have one
this month. I'm taking this month off.
But
life has been lifing really hard lately, so we're taking May off. We will be back in June.
Awesome. All right, Kim, you want to introduce yourself to everybody, please?
Sure. I'm Kim Langling from the United States. I am an author, also the host of the podcast Let Fear Bounce. As far as writing, I've been writing since about 2004. Started really getting into it, just about like doing it almost full time about 5 years ago. Really enjoying it. I coordinate anthologies, the latest of which is Paw Prints on the Couch, where I've got numerous co-authors that have shared their stories about their beloved pets. And the newest one that's coming out this August it's called Paw Prints on the Kitchen Floor. And our next panelist, she is participating in that book as well. So I'm looking forward to that book coming out in August.
Awesome. Well, let's meet our next panelist, which is Miss Randy Lee.
Hello. So my name is Randy Lee Boslaw. I am super excited. I have 2 stories coming into that anthology about 2 different fur babies. But I am an author, mostly of nonfiction, but I also do some kids books as well. And I host a show called The Write or Die Show, where I interview people across the world. We talk about mental health because that is my jam. I love talking about mental health.
Awesome. Well, welcome all. A.L. Mengel says hello. Hello, A.L. Nice to see you. Yeah, so, you know, words are very hard. As if I haven't proven that already this morning, I'm going to prove that throughout the entirety of this 60 minutes here. But I did want to start the conversation and kind of get it going by asking you all, when did you really feel like you fell in love with words? When was it that you decided that words were going to be what drove what you do?
My first thought was the moment I started talking. That'd probably be what my mom would say.
Yeah.
Started talking, never shut up, and just decided I was going to write too.
Yeah. I blame
think
Ray
what-
Bradbury. It's all his fault.
So
I
many
think
things can we trace back to Ray Bradbury. Sorry, go ahead, Kim.
Oh, no, that's okay.
I don't know who Ray Bradbury is.
What?
Yeah. Total shock there.
What? Something wicked this way come?
Are we just going to be shocked?
Stories.
I'm just gonna
Let's
sit
read his
here.
short stories immediately.
Okay, then I probably do know. I'm just super bad with names, and I probably didn't remember.
Fahrenheit 451.
Nope, never read it.
Something wicked this way comes.
That one I do know. Okay.
Dandelion wine.
Nope.
Wow. Okay, sorry. I'm sorry. Please, Kim, go ahead.
I'm hiding now.
Now, see, I've heard of Ray Bradbury, but I've not read him. So
Okay, see, I don't feel so bad.
Don't
You're
Something
so
Wicked
close to
This
me.
Way Comes is one of the best books in the horror genre. I'm just saying.
I don't read a whole lot of horror. I don't know why.
Okay.
I just
Well, that makes sense.
Well, see, I love
I did as a
horror.
teenager. I read a whole bunch of Stephen King, and to me that was horror because he's kind of got little bit of crazy going on in some of his stories, and you're like,
Mm-hmm.
it gave me yeah.
Y'all
he's
new folks
brilliant.
don't know,
He's
but
brilliant.
that picture comes up in every This Week in Indies. Every single one. Any show that Joe is producing, if he can get that picture in, he gets that picture in.
It's just so perfect.
It is
Yes.
perfect. It is perfect. He's a brilliant author, truly brilliant.
He is. It's true.
But I think for when words had the big impact on me, and I mean, really, truly, like you almost felt them, and that's how I describe it, is when I started reading when I was real little, and I was constantly asking for more books. And can we go to the library? And can I have more books? Because certain words and certain sentences, the way they were woven together, I always was enthralled with people that could write like that and make me feel. So I think since I started reading, even if it was Dr. Seuss,
I love Dr. Seuss. My aunt used to have like a whole collection of it. And every time I go to her house, I would just sit there and read them one after another, after another, and then not put them away. And she'd get mad at me. But I loved reading them.
they're awesome. Yeah, words are fun.
Those and
Although
all
hard
the
sometimes.
right, all the Mr. and Mrs. books, like the Mr. Grumpy and Mrs. Perfect and all those books. I used to read all those too.
I've not heard of those.
Oh, really?
Is that a Canadian thing?
I don't know. A.F. Stewart, is it a Canadian thing? Do you know what I'm
No,
talking about?
No, I have never heard of them either. But I wasn't much into kids' books as a kid. So
All right, we'll forgive you.
I read more children's books when I had my daughter. Growing up, though, I was into like the Little House on the Prairie series and all of those. And Nancy Drew.
yeah, Nancy Drew. And
did you read the Bobbsey twins? The
yes,
Bobbsey
Yeah.
and Hardy Boys. I was
And
also into
The Hardy
animals.
Boys.
and Trixie Belden. Trixie Belden.
See, now I want to go buy all of those. I want to go get all of the collect because I'm a brand new grandma. I have a brand new granddaughter.
Oh,
congratulations.
You need to get the Jolly Postman.
The Jolly Postman. Okay.
So good. The Jolly Postman Returns, and the Jolly Postman Saves Christmas. Ultimate favorite kids book. I got the one for my kid when he was little. and I got the other one for my grandson when he was born. It's so cool. So it's like it's a book, but inside of the book, because it's about a postman, he is delivering mail, and you actually get to pull the mail out of the book and read different things, and it's all storybook characters. So like the big bad wolf gets mail, and you pull it out, and it's a whole letter, and it's so cool.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh yeah.
So cool.
Well, have you guys seen that thing on YouTube? But it's about the grandma reading something to her grandson. It's called The Wonky Donkey.
I've not.
Look it up on YouTube. It is hilarious, and I think it's a Europe from maybe England, the author, but it's called The Wonky Donkey. It says The Wonky Donkey, and everything rhymes with wonky. And the grandmother is completely losing her crap reading to her grandson because it's so funny. And I'm like, I've got to figure out how to get a copy of that book to read to my granddaughter.
I can only assume Amazon.
I'm sure you can find it on Amazon, probably.
Yeah, everything's there.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to introducing words like that are woven together so brilliantly. I'm looking forward to introducing that to my granddaughter.
Yeah,
that is
definitely
fabulous. I love that.
So we established that, you know, we found a foundation for how words came into our lives, right? And so when you started to pen words, when did you realize that they had meaning or power? When do you feel like, was it the first story you wrote? Did you have to write a few times over? Did you feel like there was a moment, an aha moment for you with words that mattered to how you were going to continue this profession?
Ooh.
So for me, I when I was young, and now I wanted to be a writer when I was a tween, like early teen. I realized when I was about 13 or 14, I wanted to write. And my mom said, and Joe, I think you've heard this before. My mom said, that's a very competitive profession. And of course, my 13-year-old brain added to the end of that. So of course you couldn't possibly succeed in it. And so I just kind of gave up. But and I didn't start writing seriously again until I was in my 30s. But when I was young, what I realized is I would write like school assignments and things like that. And I would try to like create an emotion. Like I found that I could manipulate words and then manipulate people's emotions with that manipulation of the words. And that I found very early on, because people would be like, I would have teachers come to me and say, you know, how much like what I wrote made them feel. And I realized at that point how powerful words could be.
Yeah, well, I started with poetry. Because that's and it wasn't poetry for public consumption. It was just poetry for me, to get my emotions and how I felt about things. I mean, I wrote poetry, I still do, about everything. It's like comic books. I got books about comic book characters, poems about comic book characters. I've got poems about fantasy, sci-fi, all sorts of things. I just wrote it, and then I have the poems about how I was feeling and stuff like that. And then Ray Bradbury came into the picture, as I mentioned before, with Scholastic magazine. I'm still wondering why they were putting some of his stories in a book for middle grade kids. Yeah. But that's Canada for you. Anyway, and he showed me how powerful stories could be, and how you could make things, you could just like, wow, he's the master of like the wow ending, the twist in the end. I mean, Foghorn and The Emissary were two of the ones I read out of Scholastic. Yeah. And so that got me interested in short stories. So then I started writing the short stories, and then, and English assignments in school, that's where I'd write the short stories for and stuff like that. So anyway, and that's kind of how I got started in all the words, and the words kept coming, and then the stupid characters will never leave me alone. So what are you going to do?
I had a combination of the two answers. I wrote when I was younger. I just created stories when I was younger, and then I discovered Poe and realized that, hey, because I used to think I was just too much in my own brain. It was like therapy for me. But then I discovered Poe and realized, hey, I could scare the shit out of people with my
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that.
I was a huge Stephen King nerd when I was a
Mhm.
teenager. I mean,
Same-
I'm still a
same
huge
here.
Stephen King nerd if I'm really getting right down to it.
Mhm.
But yeah, also with the scaring, with
Mhm.
that just the level of emotion that you can elicit out of someone with their words. It's
Mhm.
almost like magic, you know?
Yeah,
It's
it's
like
the
its own form of magic.
I hated growing up because I was never like I had to work really hard to be good at stuff like sports and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But writing, it was just kismet. I just gravitated right to it, and I could write like the wind, and it was
Mhm.
something that I never had to work hard at until I actually became an author and a writer, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a little bit. But yeah, so it was like words always came out of me, and it was always a natural thing, and I really feel like that gave me comfort as a young child.
Mhm.
Anyway,
Mhm.
Kim, Randy, for you all.
I think I wrote stuff when I was a teenager, that angsty stuff that, you didn't share with anybody. It was all that angsty poetry and stories and whatever. But I never looked at it or thought of it as something that's what I was going to do
Mm.
until my late 30s.
Mm.
So it was, a couple decades later that an opportunity had came to me and someone said, "Hey, we want you to share your personal story,"
Mm.
which it's got a little bit of trauma in there. And that was not anything I'd ever thought of doing, especially putting it in a book out there into the world,
Mm.
because it was, very, very personal. And you're like, I don't want people looking at me different,
Yeah.
So that's when that opportunity came, I realized just how powerful writing could be by reading other people's stories. And then I'm a veteran, and my local newspaper asked me to start doing a monthly column and chatting to local veterans. And I did that for 14 years. And
Oh.
the veterans that I spoke with many, many times, I was the first person they actually shared their story with.
Mm.
Mhm.
And to me, that was humbling, ridiculously humbling, and a huge honor. And when I was writing, when I would sit and write, it felt as if everything they had shared, I took on. So I took on their emotions. I took on their fear, their anger, their bitterness, their PTSD, and I was carrying that. And then when I would write their story and share their story with their words and get it out there the right way, that's when I realized, holy cow,
Mm.
these stories need to be told. And if whoever it is that's using me to get them out there, I accept.
Mm.
And that's how my journey of writing came about, was simply talking to others and sharing their story, because they're a part of history. And so many of them that I have interviewed over the years have since passed, because they were World War II veterans, former prisoners of war, Korean veterans, Vietnam veterans, all combat. And their stories needed to be told. And that's really where my writing came. I was like, oh, I want to do more of this. And then
Yeah.
it just stuck with me. So now I'm constantly getting nudges. Oh, do this story. Oh, got to write this down. Oh, got to do that. And it's like, your character's in your head. I've got whatever's in my head saying, get that out. Got to get that story out. Got to talk to that person. So yeah, that's where mine started.
Nice. How about for you, Randy?
So I was writing right from when I was little, like immediately as soon as I knew how to write, I was writing. I think because it's easier for me to get my thoughts on paper as opposed to saying them. Sometimes saying them can be far more difficult.
Mm.
So right from when I was little, I was writing like newspapers and made my mom read them about what was happening on in the house. And I always write from that, wanted to be some kind of writer, whether I thought maybe I'd be a movie critic at one point, and so I'd write that would be in my little newspaper. I would write plays and force my cousins to act them out with me. So maybe I was going to be a screenwriter. Like, I didn't know where it was going to take me, but something like some kind of writing with some acting in there was all my whole plan. And then as a teenager, yeah, poetry was my big thing. It helped me through all those angsty teenage years. And those are actually what became my first book that I released in 2017. I collected all of those poems. I had found them in my basement, and I went, I don't want to throw them out. I don't want them to sit in my basement. What the heck am I going to do with them? Put them. I always said I was going to write a book, so I put them, made them my first book, and I was like, I guess this is what I'm going to do with my writing. I'm going to be an author. All right, let's be an author. And then I just kept going.
Yeah. Yeah. My first book was poetry too.
Nice.
Huh.
I'm working on a new book that's going to be poetry too now. I've circled back to it after all these years.
Anita challenged herself by doing haiku even.
Ooh.
So.
I was just going to mention that. I was going to ask if anyone writes haiku, because I absolutely love writing haiku.
I've actually got 2 books of horror haiku published.
Yeah.
Horror haiku.
That sounds so cool.
The old double H. She's got the double H books out there.
Mm-hmm. I don't go to any certain style, but they always have to rhyme. I don't really care for poems when they don't rhyme. I don't know what it is, but I feel like they need to.
You gotta watch some spoken word then. Spoken word, there's some incredible like performance art with spoken word that doesn't rhyme, and it's amazing. So you'll get a gravitation toward poetry in a different sense that's very interesting. So
I feel like whenever I've heard spoken word, it's good, but when I read it, I need it to be written with the rhyming. It's very different.
Yeah, you're right. There is absolutely different. A.L. Mengel says, for me, it was Poe, Stephen King, and Anne Rice. KJ Feller says, my go-to was Neil Gaiman, Jess Kidd, Lydia Kang. And then Andy also mentions, I write based on dreams I've had and deep connections I've had with afterlife, the cosmos, and what may be beyond.
I recently found my old book of poetry from when I was a teen, mid and late teens, very, very early 20s. And I read through some of it, and some of it is so bad, but some of it I'm like, okay, that's not bad. I can do something with that. So I may be putting out some poetry at some point in the future.
I've mentioned speaking of Anne Rice, I've mentioned this before. I had an aversion to Interview with a Vampire that drove me crazy. I really disliked that book tremendously. And when I did, I ended up writing a vampire book because I just felt like I could be done so much better. And obviously it's not. And I've never published it. It's sitting in a notebook. And I mean, I've grown to appreciate a lot more of Anne Rice than I did when I was a kid. But when I was a teenager, that was my response to Anne Rice, was writing a vampire book, and I never published it or anything. I just wrote it in a notebook. I still have it, but it'll never.
I think Anne Rice's best book, I think, still is The Witching Hour. I just think that was the best book she ever wrote. It's the first of the Mayfair. Huh? Say again, Kim?
I think I read that one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the first book of the Mayfair Witches series. Now, I didn't care for the rest of the series, but that first book was just amazing.
So I mentioned that simply because, well, obviously Anne Rice was invoked here, but also there are times now where we're writing words that aren't being seen and told, right? And so the exercise of writing words becomes a part of our lexicon now. It's not so much about what words, did for us, but how much we're practicing to hone our craft, to, figure out things, how to say certain things, how to be impactful with words, right? So it's changed. It's evolved for all of us, I would assume. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the love of words just is always inherent there and should be, probably. But do you feel like there is a more clinical aspect to how you delve into words now than before, now that you've kind of published stuff and kind of put stuff out there? Do you find that your emphasis on certain words and different words have, different meanings for you?
Yeah, definitely. Because like I was talking about the poetry, when I started out, I was just writing free verse, just spewing it out really. But then I got into forums through this website that I used to belong to, and that you need to really understand how to place words in a form poem, how to make the poem flow so it doesn't sound clunky, it doesn't read clunky. So you learn how structure, a sentence structure, and how syllables and all sorts of things like that make your writing better. So that aspect of it. And also, when I was started doing the flash fiction, I learned how to be a lot more concise, a lot more get rid of all the junk words, because you got to stick a story in 750 words. You got to be real concise. And if you stick it in 100 words, is what I do every week on my blog. You got to be really, really concise.
Yeah. That's what I love about flash fiction. I love, so when I started writing for serious, I went to grad school to, at the time, what was the only program that was specifically for commercial fiction. It wasn't about, Faulkner and Hemingway and stuff like that. It was about, Nora Roberts and Stephen King and stuff like that. And Joe, you said something about, writing getting better or evolving or whatever. I always say that writing is a skill. Yes, you can have an inherent talent, but you can improve at whatever level you are just by practicing. And the reason I know this is because when I graduated from that program, I started editing professionally. And because you get money in faster if you're editing than if you're writing. I ended up concentrating more on my editing for about 8 or 10 years than I did on my writing. And in that process, I was working for a publishing company as well, contract work, and we were doing slush reading in addition to the actual editing. And I wasn't writing as much. And most of the stuff I was reading was not professional quality. Like the stuff I was editing, we moved it to professional quality, but it wasn't always at professional quality when I started, right? So the stuff that I was reading was not professional quality in most cases. The stuff that I wasn't writing. And what I found over that time is that when I decided to recommit to my writing, I wasn't as good as I was when I came out of grad school. I had lost some of my skill. So I had to rebuild that. So I definitely think that our writing and how we use our words and the way we build our stories changes over time. And I used to be a dyed-in-the-wool pantser, but that took way too long to finish anything for me. And so now I think more about how the words fit together than I did when I started. Like when I started, it was just like, put the words on the page, they'll be beautiful. They weren't always beautiful. And so now I try to be a little more intentional about the words I use than I was when I was still a younger writer, like less seasoned writer, let's just say. So
my first reaction,
if I look back at stuff that I wrote when I first started writing, I sit there and go, oh my gosh, Kim, you suck. And then, I see how it's changed because I'm an avid reader. I mean, I read 2 to 3 books a week, always have, and sometimes more. And I've learned a lot simply by reading as much as I do. I didn't go to, I went to the military. I didn't go to college for writing or anything. So I found that I've learned so much simply by reading and talking to other authors, but then also reading other people's stuff. Like I'll have friends will say, hey, I wrote this. Can you just take a look at it and let me know what you think? And I'm always very honest, not mean, but honest. And I too have found, especially when I'm writing, I'm like, wow, why do I use so many filler words? And before before it was just like you had said earlier, Vanessa, you just get the words out, get them down on paper, and it's going to be beautiful and brilliant. Well, I used to do that too. And then I was like, okay, quit using this word. You don't need all these ly words that end in ly. Get rid of those. You don't need the word that all the time. Quit ending your sentence in a preposition. But at the beginning, when I started writing, I'm like, what is a preposition? I mean, seriously, because, I was just writing because someone asked me to share my story.
Yeah.
And that's how that got. So I self-taught myself, and I would listen to other people's podcasts with authors on, sign up for free webinars and all kinds of stuff like that, just simply to learn, and how fascinating it is. And now I can look back from 2004 to now. Oh my gosh, that's 20 years. I don't think I ever said that out loud. From 2004 to 20. Holy crap.
Make you feel really, really like it was a long time ago. I was in high school.
Yeah, it makes me feel a little, no, I'm seasoned. I'm seasoned.
Seasoned and veteran.
Wise. I'm wizened and seasoned.
I was 8 years out of the Marines at 2004. So.
Oh, you're a Marine. Hoorah. There you go. Thank you for your service, sir. I appreciate it.
Thank you for yours.
No, I was in high school in 2004, almost graduating, but still in high school. And actually, that's probably the year that I took an extra English class to fill my schedule. And it was all about creative writing and stop using all those filler words. So my initial reaction when you asked that question was, I don't think it's changed that much. Like, it's changed, but like, I don't think on a conscious level. But as I'm listening to all of our guests talk, I'm like, okay, yeah, through reading other books, because I try to read at least one book a week because I write blog reviews on them. And through doing that, I kind of go, wow, that book kind of was bleh, and that book was whoa. And why, like in my head, not consciously thinking about it, but subconsciously, it's kind of like, why were they different? I want to go to more of the woo books, right? When I'm doing my writing. And I mean, when it comes to poetry, because I love rhyming stuff, the ease of finding words that rhyme together now that the internet is in my hand all the time, because as a teenager, it wasn't, and I had to know the words. I mean, that has definitely helped.
Yeah, Rhyme Zone is your friend. Yes,
it
definitely.
is. I have it saved on my home screen on my phone. but yeah, I think
that and the syllable counter websites too.
I haven't used that, but Rhyme Zone is my jam. I love Rhyme Zone.
I didn't know there was a syllable.
Yeah, there are poetry syllable counters.
Words are hard.
Words are hard.
Right.
When I'm sitting there when I'm writing haiku, because I write haiku for the fun of it. Like, I'll pick a word, and then in my brain say, write a haiku on it. So if I'll pick a word like whisper.
Yep.
More power to you. Wow.
And to me, that's fun. And so I sit there and I'm like, counting on my fingers, 5, 7, 5.
Poetry soup haiku syllable counter. Best thing ever.
There you go.
I'll definitely have to check that out. Awesome.
I love it. Yeah, my kid just did in his English class, he just had the poetry unit, and during the haikus, I'm like trying to explain to him about syllables because they didn't really teach him that part. He was going through a lot of stuff at that time during school. And so he said, okay, count my claps. And then I would clap to each syllable so he could understand what they were. But I didn't realize we could just like stick it in a website. That would have been so much easier.
No, but that's funner. That is so much funner to clap it out.
And also, it's better that he's able to now do that himself without reliance on the website. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, see, good mommy skill there.
To be fair, I don't think he's ever going to need that in life. But thank you. I'll take the compliment.
Along this conversation, we had a comment. KJ Feller says that one of my longtime mentors makes me write poetry and submit to her the exercise designed to improve my prose. It works. Economy of words, art, flow, pace. All right, so let's get really into the psychology of words here. I want to know, do you all remember the first time somebody challenged your words? Do you remember how you felt and what it meant? And then how you deal with it now? When do you challenge yourself a lot more because you were challenged?
What do you mean by challenge your words?
Saying something like, I don't, exactly what you just did, which is, I don't understand what you're trying to say here. Or the first time you got a bad edit, an edit where they say this sentence doesn't make any sense, or what are you trying to say here? Those kind of things.
Oh, I remember exactly how I felt because I had never written before. And I'm like, I have thick skin, just tell me, be truthful. But when you're sharing your very, very personal story for the very first time and the edit comes back and I'm like, oh my gosh. And then I realized they weren't getting it. And that was on me. wasn't their fault they weren't getting it. And as soon as my brain clicked into that mode, it's not them who's not getting it, it's you who's not getting it out the right way. That's when I'm like, all right, pare it down. And thankfully the editor was super, super nice. Just really empathetic and talked me through a few things and said, think of it this way or look at it this way. Then how would you word it? So she taught me a lot in a very, very short period of time. But that first edit, since it was such a personal story, it was almost a physical hurt because I took it so personal. And then since then, though, it's like, you can't take that personal because for me anyway, I'm writing the words, I'm writing a story, whatever, it's mine at that time. But as soon as it's published, it's not yours. You've just gifted it to the world. And if your readers, the folks that it lands in their hands, they don't get it, that's on you, sweet pea. That's just me.
Yeah. No.
Go ahead, Randy.
No, I'm trying to think. I honestly can't think of a time. So it's not that people haven't done it, but I can't really pinpoint a time where I was like, oh no, or whatever. Like when my edits have come back, it's been
do you feel like there, maybe not the exact time, but do you feel like there was a moment when you realized that words mattered that much to kind of convey? Do you do a lot less editing now than you did? Was there a time when you were doing a lot more editing?
No. That's so weird. Not really. So
first drafts suck. That's their job.
Right? First drafts suck. And I think though, for me though, I am so what's the word I'm looking for? I'm so literal. And I think that probably has to do. I have autism, so a lot of us are quite literal. And so when I usually tend to challenge other people. Like my biggest pet peeve is when people use the word ignorant to mean rude. And I'm like, but the dictionary says that it means that you just don't know something, right? Like they're not synonyms, right? So I think for me, I challenge myself more to make sure that I'm using the right word because I'm so literal with how a word is supposed to be that I will actually Google the definition of a word if I'm not 1000% sure that is what it exactly means.
That. That's exactly what I do. I want to use a word so badly sometimes. It like in my head, it makes sense. And then I Google it to make sure that it means what I think it means.
Yeah. So I think I challenge myself more than other people challenging me.
Yeah. So go ahead, Anita.
I was going to say, the first time someone challenged my stuff is probably the first book of short stories I published, and this was way back in 2007. And it's not so much that this was actually a reviewer and not an editor, because I don't mind editors telling me that the stuff is crap, because they never tell me that it's as crap as I think it is. So I'm happy with editors.
I find editors are much more like they give you criticism, but in a very nice, helpful way.
Yeah.
Y'all have never been edited by Rebecca Jonesy. I'm just going to say that right now.
Well,
and I love it. I love the torture.
I've had Rebecca Bader read a couple of my stuff, and I still don't mind her stuff. So, I mean, I always think my stuff is way worse than it actually is. So when editors tell me things, I'm going, oh yeah, that's right. Definitely, that's right. I'll fix that. But the review. Now, this was my very first review. Keep that in mind. And it's not that he disliked it. He just said it was more of a character sketch than an actual story, is basically what they said. And that, of course, I didn't know what I was doing back then, really. And I just went in the bathroom and cried. And then I went back and politely thanked him for doing the review. Then he came back and tried to apologize for the review, which I thought was weird. But
maybe he realized that he wrote it in not such a nice way.
I don't know. I think the guy was a little bit of a cranky pants anyway, because we had an interaction after that, and yeah,
but some people are.
That was basically, I mean, I don't take reviews that seriously anymore. I mean, they're subjective.
You can't.
Anyway, so yeah.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah. My first time. So I mentioned that when I was younger, like words come relatively easy to me, like generally speaking. And when I was in high school and college and stuff, I never had bad feedback on my writing. Like, but I also didn't take any creative writing courses. So let me just like be clear about that. So there were no critiques or anything like that. But anytime I wrote something, it was almost always well received, right? When I got to grad school for writing, that changed, because now I'm among people who are my level or better, right? Like they're also good with words, except they also know how to do it right, which I had never taken time to learn. I just threw shit on the page and it'll be great. And so I remember my very first in-person critique session. And the way it worked is it was led by one of the professors. And then you had like anywhere from 5 to 8 people, and everybody had a couple pages, and you had to sit there while people critiqued your work. And then the facilitator would be the last person, and then you could speak. And so the first time I'd ever been in a situation like that, I'd never had my stuff critiqued ever. And it wasn't bad, but like, I remember my facilitator giving me back the pages, and she had highlighted every was and were. And let me tell you, that page was yellow.
At least it wasn't red.
I mean, right, but it was a highlighter, so yes, it was yellow everywhere. It was an awakening for me, because there was a part of me that thought that I was better than I was. Like looking back. Yeah. I mean, it's good that I thought that, because it made me go, hey, I could get into this grad program, so, but like it knocked me down a couple pegs and was like, okay, like it made it very clear that I still had a lot to learn. And it really just made me focus more, it helped me in that regard. And obviously, like, you want everybody to love everything you ever put out, right, but that's not realistic. And I think having, at least it was also a very supportive environment, in that, like, I could have gone to, like, I could go to somebody and say, I'm all up in my feels about that critique, and they'll talk you through it and stuff. And so it was also a very supportive environment, and it was a really good thing overall, because it also kind of prepared me for the professional side, where you're getting edits from an editor who may not even really know you very well at all. And so so it's just it was really helpful, although it did hurt my heart a little bit, but it was necessary, So
let me just be clear. I feel like I threw Rebecca under the bus a little bit, and it wasn't the idea. Why I love the way Rebecca critiques me is because I know she loves what I write, right? I know that she's a fan. I know, and that's the whole reason that we got together in the first place. She's going to let me help you get to the next level, because I think your writing is good and I want to help you. And so when she says something to me, she's very direct in how she approaches everything. And so I like that. I don't like being kind of wondering what do you mean when you ask me about this, right? And I know exactly what she means when she tells me something about how to change it or what she's not getting, right? And so I like that aspect of it. I don't need to be patted on the back when I want
need to be patted on the back.
I want you to tear it apart. That's the whole purpose of why you're doing what you're doing a little bit, so that it can be better. I assume you like it if you're really into it and you're asking questions. So that's kind of how I feel like that's how I deal with it a little bit, So Jessica says grad school helped me focus as well and really accept criticism a lot more. And I come from a world, for Randy and Kim who don't know me, I come from a world where you get constantly shit on in terms of I worked in Hollywood for almost 18 months, and I come from a screenwriting background and a filmmaking background. So I come from a world where it's just constant. If you don't have a thick skin, you'll never make it in that business ever. And the reality is you'll never make it in that business ever anyway. But if you don't have a thick skin, it's going to really torch you, and you're going to be set on fire pretty fast. And you just gotta learn to roll with it a little bit. And so
Sounds like customer service.
it's a lot like retail sales.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, other than the idea that with those aspects of like customer service and retail sales and stuff like that, it's more about them than it is you. Even you start to realize it's more about them than it is you too in that. But it's like, you with those aspects, you have to deal with it. I don't have to take shit from anybody in Hollywood. Screw you. If you don't like what I like, go away. I'll find somebody who does like it. But that being said, we were talking about, it's funny, was and wers and things like that. I realized recently that so is my crutch. I use so.
That's one of mine
Yes.
too.
Yep.
And so I
See,
one of the things I work through, and this is something that I had to deal with the current thing I just wrote, is that I have to let myself do that. I have to punch myself out a little bit. Just put them all in there. Don't worry about it, because you're going to go back and edit it, right?
Exactly.
And that's something that I learned about words, right? You can edit them.
Yeah.
And so when you discovered that you had a crutch word, when you figured out that what words do you let it roll with what you're writing now and just go back and take them out, or are you very concentrated on not making sure you try to not use that word all the time?
So my crutch word is so. Actually, yeah, I use so a lot because I
Same.
write a lot of nonfiction. I write the way that I talk.
Yeah.
So the first draft, oodles of, I just put it in there because I am just literally telling a story at first. And then later, I'll go and I'll take them out because so does not need to be in there 50,000 times.
You realize there's a much more effective way to start a sentence than so, right?
Exactly.
Especially when Grammarly wants you to put a comma behind the so every freaking time.
That just means take it out.
Yeah, exactly.
For me, if I know that I'm making the mistake or I'm using a crutch word while I'm writing the rough draft, I will absolutely change it if I can, because I hate doing revisions. I love editing other people. I hate doing that shit myself. So if I can, as clean as I can make it on the first draft, that's what I'm going to do, because I don't like going through and taking out 50,000 actuallys, because that so is also one of my words, but actually and smiles. My characters smile all the fucking time. So if I can get that on the first draft, I'd be like, oh, I'm writing that word again.
I'm starting to believe that's Rachel's crutch word too, because she pointed out a bunch of smiles in my draft.
Yeah. So I have the smilingest smiley characters you will ever encounter smiling. So.
Yeah, my characters smile way too much too.
You would think, especially in like horror and shit, but they wouldn't be smiling as much. But
They smile evilly. They smile evilly, but they smile, and they also sigh a lot.
Mine's
They just sigh all the time. But just is another one that I do, especially in dialogue. But I just leave it all in there because unlike Vanessa, I hate writing first drafts and I like editing.
I use the word that a lot. I use the word that.
I overuse that a little bit.
Yeah, I way overuse it. And I'm kind of half and half, I think. I will just sometimes just get it all out there because I write nonfiction as well, just like Randy. And a lot of times just you're telling a story, you're getting it all out there. But other times, I don't know, maybe it's the day, my mood, I have no idea. I'll sit there and say, oh my God, I just put in that again. That's not necessary, Kim. So sometimes I edit as I'm going, which takes a long time and it's not fun. And then I realize, well, that wasn't a fun little writing session, So I try and just kind of let it all get out there. And then I let it simmer for a few days and I come back later
That's a
and
good
look at it and go, wow, you have, 17,402 that's in there. Let's get rid of some of those.
Hopefully that's in a 60,000 word document and not a 20,000 word document. But it's interesting. You mentioned, Randy, that it's a conversational style, right? That's it's in your head because that's how you conversate.
Yep.
And so uh, now I'm catching myself. But the idea is, right, that's a natural thing, and we want to be as natural as possible. So, Jesus, now I'm just gonna constantly figure out every time I do so. But the idea, do you feel like you'll fight for some of those crutch words because they're crutch words for a reason? They work, they're effective in certain aspects.
Oh, I definitely don't take out all of them.
Mm-hmm.
If they're working, then, or if I'm at a part where I'm going to tell so the last book that I just published, this one, Goodbye Too Soon, it's about my brother's death, and so there is actually conversations that I put in there, and I didn't want to change the words, which means so stayed in there because it was true to what actually happened. So yeah, it really depends on the circumstance. I'm going to take out some of them, but some of them, they need to stay because they add value to what it is I'm trying to get across.
I would agree with that 100%
Yeah.
in fiction and nonfiction. I would say that, though, that in fiction specifically, oftentimes what happens in real life is not believable in fiction. So, and although that doesn't include necessarily using words like so or that or actually, but so you don't need to be that specific, like that particular in fiction. And also, like, if you listen to the way people talk, even the way we talk now, we wouldn't write dialogue like that on the page because there's too many filler words and there's too many ums and uhs and likes and things of that nature that it makes it bogs down the dialogue. So you definitely have to take out some things that feel like it would be a realistic, like a realism thing, but it's not going to be easy to read, or it's not going to be concise enough for the reader and stuff like that. So it's definitely a balance, right, between whether you leave it in or take it out. And obviously, if it's working, you don't want to take it out. But if it's not working, or if it becomes if it's clear that it's not intentional, like when I do edits, one of the things I do is highlight echo words, like words that appear within a few lines of each other, or even within a page of each other if it's a weird word, right? Because we don't want to do that. Sometimes you do it deliberately. Sometimes you echo deliberately, and that's fine because that comes across to the reader as a deliberate echo. But when it's not deliberate, that's when it needs to be questioned. It's like, are you doing this with intention, or did you trip and fall into the echo? Because if you tripped and fell into the echo, you need to clean it up because it's messy, and ain't nobody want to read the messy.
I did a lot of that in this last draft that I looked at. I made sure that the words were kind of, if I was using a similar word, Thesaurus was my friend. Thesaurus.com was my friend.
Yeah.
And it's always been my friend. But
Yeah. I approach it like, if the word doesn't enhance a sentence or it isn't necessary to the sentence structure, then it can probably go.
Yeah.
How about for you, Kim?
That I agree. I agree with her on that. And I've had a couple different editors that just in conversation, they weren't editing my stuff, but that was something that they brought up. They said, reread it. And if it's not adding anything to it, then get rid of it. You don't need it. And that's when I learned about that.
I think this comment sums up our conversation quite nicely. Even the likes of William Faulkner broke the rules. Hey, if William Faulkner can break the rules.
Yeah, but that's the whole thing. Like, if you're going to break the rule, do it with intent.
Yeah.
Don't do it just because you can. I mean, anybody can fucking break the rules, but you want it to be impactful. And so if you're going to break a rule, do it on purpose. Don't do it just because you're sloppy or because you're lazy and you don't want to fix it. Because otherwise, when you do later break the rules intentionally for impact, it's going to have less impact because you willy-nilly broke the rules for no real reason. So that's my view anyway.
Well, we broke some rules today. We talked some words, and now it's time for me to torture my guests with 10 questions. And I'll do it artfully. So,
So actually,
that leads.
yes,
actually, how this works is
that
I'm going to go down the line. So the way that I see you all on my screen is how I'm going to ask a question, and Kim, you'll answer, then Anita, then Vanessa, then Randy, and then we snake it back the other way. So Randy, you'll answer the second question first, Vanessa, and then we'll just go back and forth until all 10 questions are answered. There's no timer. We used to do a timer. So Kim and Randy, think of yourselves very lucky because the Jim Nettles rule is in effect, which is pontificate all you like and don't worry about the time. That's what I call it because Jim was very, very good at pontificating.
I mean, that's Jim's normal setting. His normal setting is pontificate.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So the first question, Kim, is, today is Cinco de Mayo. We have also this week celebrated International Bookstore Day and Indie Comic Day. So I'm wondering, what's an unconventional holiday you celebrate a lot?
National Superhero Day.
Nice. Anita?
Talk Like a Pirate Day.
Oh, you took mine.
You can repeat. It's okay.
I'm totally taking Anita's.
All
I
right.
also do Talk Like a Pirate Day, except we do a pirate pub crawl here in Atlanta.
Ooh.
Nice.
So
No, my uncle actually had a pirate boat and dresses up like there's a couple of my cousins that it's actually like a real big deal and the countdown, and it's pretty cool.
All right. Randy, besides words, what aspect or principle surrounding your work do you concentrate on the most?
Honesty.
Interesting.
Being a nonfiction, it has to be very honest, and I do a lot about mental health because the whole idea is that to end the stigma of mental health, you have to speak openly and honestly. That's my catchphrase on my show, so I try to make sure that's in there.
Nice.
Vanessa? For me, I think in terms of mechanics, it would be plotting, and in terms of theme, it would definitely be connection, like human connections with other people, relationships, that kind of thing.
Nice. Anita?
Murder.
Yes.
Somehow, I knew that was coming.
That is like the perfect Anita answer.
Yeah.
Like,
I
perfect.
mean, come on. Did you expect anything else?
She's like, have you met me?
Yeah.
All right, Kim?
So she says murder. I don't know why I'm finding it hilarious. She says murder. What I like to focus on is hope.
Right after murder.
Right. That's cracking me up.
Well, see, because we hope that the murder is plotted honestly.
Right. Right.
Sometimes murder is the hope.
That's right. Yeah. But so I write nonfiction as well, just like Randy, and I think that the being raw and honest in telling the story, I think it to me is vital. Two things. I want people to feel something. I want them to feel. But at the end of it, I also want them to walk away with a little nugget of hope.
Nice.
So they're not stuck in a dark spot anymore.
Nice.
I love that. All
right. So Kim, since Superhero Day is something you celebrate, this will be right up your alley because it is Free Comic Book Day. I believe it was yesterday, Free Comic Book Day. So I want to know what comic book or superhero character is one that you never got that everybody likes.
One that I never got that everybody likes?
Yeah, what's one you don't like that everybody else likes, basically?
Oh. I'm not really into comics.
Well, superheroes.
Superheroes. The Hulk.
Okay. Fair enough.
I don't know why. I don't know why. He just, I don't know. Never. I just don't feel like I connected with the Hulk. So I connect
enough.
more with like Captain America.
Well, that makes sense. You have hope. The Hulk never had hope.
You know? That is so sad.
Anita?
Probably Superman. I mean, comic book wise, I mean, I like the TV iterations of him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, some of the movies, but I really never connected with Superman in the comic books because he's just like too perfect, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
All
Vanessa?
of them.
Fair enough.
Like, I mean, I grew up on the Superman movies and stuff, but I was never a big comic person ever. And like, I am honest to God, no lie, I am so tired of superhero movies. Like, honest to God, if we could get through a single season without a superhero movie, I would be happy. I don't hate them. They're fun for what they are, but I'm so tired of them. So my answer is none of them.
Gotcha.
I don't get why anybody's so hyper into any of them.
Yeah.
But if that's your thing, have fun.
How about for you,
I
Randy?
love all of them. This is a
All right.
really
That's fair
hard
enough.
question.
That's fair enough. Yeah.
No, I did think of one. Batman.
Okay.
Because he should really just become a villain with all that money.
Fair enough. All right. So we are coming up on Mother's Day, and one of the staples that I remember of my Mother's Day celebrations were the brunch buffet. And then so I'm wondering, when you go to a buffet, what's the first thing you always make sure is on your plate, Randy?
Oh. I don't know. When was the last time I was at a buffet? I guess I look for stuff that I just wouldn't make myself.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's a great answer.
Yeah. Things that I can't get elsewhere easily.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Anita?
Something I can actually eat because I have a lot of dietary restrictions.
Same. Yeah, I don't do buffets. They're not cost effective for me.
Exactly.
Kim?
I too have pretty significant dietary restrictions, but prior to that, to realizing that I did have those restrictions, I liked to get something that I would never make for myself.
Yeah.
Like a key lime pie, something like that,
Nice.
Then I would consider it, fancy.
I'm just going to say, if you have a buffet and you don't have bacon on it, you don't have a buffet. That's just my thing.
Agreed.
That's the first thing I go to. I'll skip everything and go right to the tray of bacon, and and then everything else.
And then nobody else gets bacon, and nobody else gets bacon.
Well, they bring out other trays. I mean, they could bring out more than a tray.
Well, Joe can have my bacon. I can't eat bacon. So.
Joe just arrived. Put on some more bacon.
All right, Kim, have you ever come up with a title for your memoirs? I know, Vanessa.
I've never thought about it, but as you said that, for the words that just literally just popped in my head was, and then she did.
Nice.
Nice.
I'm not asking you to tell me your title.
No, that literally just popped in my head as you said that. It was immediate. I don't know why. I don't know where it came from. Just came from back there. So
Nice.
There you have it.
Anita, have you ever come up with a title for your memoir?
She likes stabbing people.
Nice. Vanessa?
Again with the murder.
I mean, it's kind of her shtick.
I know. Yeah.
I have never thought that my life is interesting enough to write a memoir, but I think if I did, it would be like, what the fuck is this shit? So that would be the name of my memoir.
So a lot of my books are my memoirs. And my life is too insane to have just one. So yeah, I've broken it up. So I have multiple titles. I've got A Mother's Truth. I've got Embracing Me. I got Goodbye Too Soon. I've got Thoughts of a Wanderer. Thoughts of a Warrior is the next one. So lots.
All right. So Randy, have you ever written words to accept an award or written a pretend speech to accept an award?
Oh,
I just make it up on the spot for that kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So words in your head then.
They're all up here.
Nice. Lots of so's and ums and actuallys, I would imagine, right?
Actually isn't one that I use.
Okay.
That's
so
me.
then.
So,
in conclusion, I'd like to thank.
So Vanessa, what about you?
so Randy, I've never written something like that, but I have like imagined and like pretended like I was giving an acceptance speech or something like that.
Fair enough.
I don't know that I've done it recently, but probably as an adult, I've done it more than once.
Fair enough. Anita?
As a teenager, I wrote my Academy Award acceptance speech.
As you do.
Yeah. And basically, it was, I'd like to thank everyone.
Especially those that involve
Short and
murder.
sweet.
Except for that asshole in 7th grade. I don't thank him. Oh, look, there's Jonesy.
I actually did write one. I was given Volunteer of the Year award one year, and for work, I all my spare time is helping veterans. And so one year I was recognized for that, which was very humbling. And I didn't write out a speech, but I did write out an outline, like 3 bullet point things that I wanted to make sure, because I typically just wing it. But there was a lot of people at this event, and I wanted to make sure that I had these 3 points in there, because it's very, before we went on air, we were talking about how it's hard to say thank you. And to be given an award for doing something that I feel just from my heart is something that needs to be done anyway. It was actually hard for me to accept the award. So it was hard. I couldn't write something about it, but I made 3 bullet points so I would make sure I would remember, because I was very, very nervous, and I can talk in front of anybody. But that evening I was quite nervous. I do recall that.
Fair enough. Okay, so Kim, what title do you like better? Author, writer, or wordsmith?
None of them. She was a decent weaver of words.
All right. Fair enough. Anita?
Author.
All right. Vanessa?
I like author and wordsmith. I don't know. I like them all. They're all applicable, so it's all fine. Call me whatever the hell you want. I don't care. Buy my books.
Randy?
I'm with Vanessa. Buy my book. Yeah, I don't care what you call me. Like
Word herder.
Ooh, that's a
There's
fun
the
one.
infamous
Word herder.
Rebecca Jonesy.
I like that.
All right. So Randy, title to a book that you're jealous of.
Oh. My mind just went blank of all titles of all things ever.
Yeah.
Words are hard.
Are so hard.
You know what? I was about to say, I don't know if that book exists, but that is the title. Words are hard.
Words are hard. I'm gonna write that book.
Yeah.
I'm gonna write that book. Any title that is clever, because I fucking suck at titles. I am so bad at titles. So anything that's clever, I'm jealous of.
Anita?
The Last Light of the Sun.
Nice. Kim?
The ones that are clever, those, yeah, because I'll sit there and say, oh man, that is so brilliant and so simple. You know, why would my brain never think of it? There's a book called Mean People Suck.
It's true.
I didn't even know what it was about, but I bought it because of the title. Because I'm like, yes, mean people do suck. And I bought it.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was brilliant. So yeah, something that's short, sweet, and in your face. And I'm like, why doesn't that come in my head?
Yeah, there's a book out there, and I should have wrote down the author beforehand, but when I wrote this question, I thought of it immediately, which is And Now I Give Zero Fucks is the name of the title of the book.
Right, another one. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, Kim, What's your favorite word that you've created?
Oh.
Winkelschnitz.
Nice. Anita?
Oh, I'm thinking. Probably something to do with blood, like bloodborne.
Okay. Vanessa?
Mine is Javaja, which is the title of the first book of the Soul Cavern series.
Nice marketing there.
Buy my books.
Maddie?
I don't know if I've actually come up with my own word, but I do like say, you know how people say FYI? I like to say FYQ for your query.
Oh, nice.
J. Feller says it's a
Oh,
resource,
yeah.
not fiction.
The
but-
Transitive Vampire. That's a great title for that.
She says,
Yes.
love sucky people. All right. Last question. You all made it through 10 questions. Congratulations. Randy, how many words do you think you will write today?
Today, 0. I have no plans of writing today, so if I do, it will be magical.
Nice. Vanessa?
I've got a bunch of emails to write, so however many those take.
Fair enough.
I'm giving myself a reprieve on the fiction until after the convention I have this upcoming weekend. And then after that, I'm getting focused again.
Fair enough. Anita?
Well, I got to write a review, so maybe a couple of paragraphs there, and maybe some flash fiction, but I got another thing to go to later today, so I don't know how much writing I'm going to get in.
Fair enough. Kim?
0. I set a little thing for myself, my own little rule: no writing, no thinking on Sundays.
Nice.
I got to give my brain a break. So
that's a good
I don't
rule.
feel so bad about having 0 as an answer now. Thank you.
You
All
shouldn't
right.
feel bad about having 0 as an answer. You're allowed to have days off.
Yeah.
That's right.
True.
Yeah. Your brain needs refreshing every once in a while.
Yeah. I think that's something
Reset.
that authors, I think we always feel like we're supposed to be writing all the time. And
Yeah.
the whole write every day
Ugh.
thing that's bashed into people's heads, it doesn't help at all. So
Yeah,
sorry. I know we were at the
couple
end of the
years-
show.
A couple years ago is when I said no more on Sundays because
Yeah.
my brain was too tired.
Yeah.
Even authors deserve a break.
Yes.
All
That's
right.
right. Thank you, Rebecca.
Yes, that's very nice. All right. So, Kim, tell everybody where they can find you.
Easiest place is my website. You can go to my website, which is my name, kimlinglingauthor.com. You can see what I'm up to, what's coming up next. Check out episodes of the podcast, Let Fear Bounce, and all that good stuff. kimlinglingauthor.com.
Awesome. Anita?
You can find me at my website, afstewart.ca. I'm also over on Facebook with my group, AF Stewart's Minions. And all my books are on Amazon and all the other retailers. And now they are direct through Story Origin and Lemon Squeezy.
Woo!
Yeah. And look for the Headless Corpse coming soon.
Nice. And your store, do you want to tell everybody where they can get your swag and stuff?
Oh, yeah. And I have 3 stores on Zazzle. Art designs, sci-fi, horror, and fantasy designs, and writer designs, writerly stuff, A.F. Stewart's designs, and Avalon designs. Those are the stores.
Cool. Awesome. Vanessa, where can people find you?
Well, since my name is just horrific to try to remember, so you could just use that little link, sleekbio.com/Vanessa G, and that is Vanessa with an E. And you can find all my links there.
Awesome. You want to mention the troop?
Oh, yeah. So I run a writerly support and education group on Facebook, Discord, and Twitch. It is called the Writers Troop. On Facebook, you can do a search for TWT. It will come up in the group section automatically. So feel free to join. We do writing sprints and co-working, and we have a writerly discussion on Sunday evenings at 7 p.m. Where we discuss a topic that has been voted on throughout the week that has something to do with writing, the craft, the business, creativity, life balance, all kinds of things.
And if you're a member of the group, you'll have the privilege of being able to watch that if you can't attend later on.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah,
only way-
we record the discussions, and then I put the link up, the private link up in the group. So we have a whole sort of library of previous discussions that we've had on things from marketing to writing particular genres, writing blurbs, doing query letters, all kinds of stuff.
Yep. Awesome. All right, Randy, where can they find you?
I'm at rbwriting.ca. I'm also on Facebook, RB Writing, Instagram and TikTok's just my name, Randy Lee Boweslaw. And on YouTube, I'm at The Write or Die Show.
Nice.
Ooh.
Everybody go check that out. And if you haven't been here before, thank you for coming. Congratulations, you found us. We're Go Indie Now. Please do everything that you do to help us get more seen, which is smash that like button, comment, subscribe, share, all those wonderful things. We've got all kinds of programming all week long. Tomorrow afternoon at 7 p.m. Eastern, we do First Time for Everything, which is the show hosted by Juliet Rose, where she talks to independent artists about the first time that they've done stuff. So it's a really great show. It's an incredible conversation show. I've really been impressed in how Juliet runs her show and how it evolves. We also have spotlight episodes of independent artists and artists' work that we will start putting out here this week. And I'm sorry, I was going to do it all last week. We were going to start the programming last week, but then I got bogged down by a novella that I had to finish. I absolutely had to finish. It was a moral imperative. So I hope everybody who's writerly understands that. But this week we will be back to regular scheduled programming, and that will include Thursday nights where we do the spotlight episodes. Friday nights next week, Mondays and Fridays, we're going to spotlight the Multiverse Convention and people attending. We have guests, we have program directors, we have track directors, we have sponsors, everybody who's involved with the Multiverse Convention. We're going to be talking to them about that experience every Monday and Friday starting a week from this week. And then on Saturdays, we have our variety shows, which is one of those is Anita's show, which is the final season of Words That Kill, season 3, which will begin here soon. We also have Zero Means You're Dead, which is our independent RPG show, hosted by SM Hillman. And then myself and Brian Tan also do a independent wrestling show called Working the Indies. Those all will be weekly. They'll be rotated throughout weekly every month. And so that'll be on Saturdays at noon Eastern. And then, of course, we'll be back here every Sunday at noon Eastern for This Week in Indies. We'll have another show for you this week because it is always time to go indie now. And we will see you again soon, everybody. Bye-bye.